Yeah, I can. I'm ready to go. If Are you all set, Andrew? Are
Yeah,
we
that's
good?
all set. Let's get started. Thank you, Ransom.
Okay. All right. Well, excited to get started on this. I'm going to be talking about some NFT data today, including the NFT trades table, looking at some OpenSea data, trying to touch on some user-generated tables, and if there is any time, we could look at some visualizations in Dune. Um, I go by Rantum. I've been working with Dune Analytics for a good part of this year. Started by putting out some dashboards initially that were for some art blocks projects and some NFT dashboards. I noticed that there was an issue that a lot of people were looking for sales data on specific art block projects, and it was difficult to find on OpenSea because all of the data at that time was done by the full art blocks project, such as art blocks curated, where a lot of projects would be in there. So I used Dune to start making dashboards that would break that into specific projects that would look at the token ID to try to find to identify the project so that the sales per project could be tracked that way. I've worked with a number of other Web3 companies now to build some Dune dashboards, including Bright Moments, Forefront, Squiggle DAO, and have been really excited to just be able to dive into this NFT data further with Dune. Makes it really easy to do so. I do have the slides here. I should share these in the chat. Has this been shared yet? I'm not clear on that part.
No, not yet. Normally, we just have the teachers share their screens. They walk through the slides and
Cool.
all
Sorry, I haven't been able to come into a live
all good.
lecture. I've listened in on a handful. Um, as I was saying to Andrew this morning, I had to push it back a little bit. Had my kids and my wife just had surgery and just a lot going on here. Nothing major, but just a lot of time commitment things going. So anyway, I've got the slides here. I will share them in the chat. So if you want to check this out, I'll move on to the second one here and what we'll cover today. Mentioned this a little bit, but we'll get into NFT data tables, where to find NFT data in Dune. There's a number of different sources where you can find it initially, and then we'll look at the NFT trades table that brings all of these or a number of these different sources together and standardizes the data. You may have heard a little bit about that in the last session, but I don't think I've had a chance to dive into it too much. So then we'll try to access NFT data via two separate data sources. Then we'll try to look at the NFT data a little bit further, trying to go beyond just the contract address and try to use the token IDs, like I mentioned, I had done with some art blocks project or the art blocks projects to identify the NFTs further than just what the contract address gives you. That we could try adding artist names to a table of art blocks sales. Then we'll look at user-generated tables a little bit. We'll just do a simple little creation of a table where you can pick a few art blocks projects and add a quick comment. And then in the last section, do a visualization of some of those comments so you can try to playing with a few different ways of seeing the data in Dune. All right, so any questions so far? We'll go on. Looking at NFT data tables. So, like I mentioned, they occur on many different sources. You can find them in token-specific tables. There are ERC 721, ERC 1155 tables. That doesn't actually cover everything. CryptoPunks, for example, aren't either 721 or 1155. So you can find them on their own contract, the Larva Labs contract. There's Rarible, Art Block, Super Rare Foundation, OpenSea, and I've put a query together down here in the bottom bullet that has all of these um, available for you, so you can easily kind of reference them. I think it's, well, let's see, right now I've got it, looks like set up so it's from the NFT trades. I meant to keep that with one of these others initially.
Sorry, Rantum. Do you mind
If you
sharing
take
your
a,
screen? That's all
oh
right.
yeah, I'm sorry. Let me, here we go. Are we good now?
Yeah, looks good to me.
Okay, so you've
Thank
got
you.
the NFT data tables we're looking at. It's
Yep.
the slide.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Just making sure I got my right screen up here. Um, all right, cool. So I'm going to open up this query here. This query has, like I said, it's got a number of these different tables that you can get the NFT data from. And you'll see that there's the token transfer tables up top, like the 721s. See the 1155s are actually split into two different tables here. The contracts are for a batch and single. So you'd have to actually get those separately. And then there's NFT sales platforms here, like I mentioned, the CryptoPunks market. There's Rarible, some Art Blocks ones. Art Blocks is on two different contracts, so they have there's two different sources here. I did add one that I had a user-generated table that I've created that does have all of the Art Block sales. Then there's a handful of others, Super Rare Foundation. So when you're there's a simple way here to get the data from any of these, and it's usually just contract address is usually the name of the field. It's not always that. It may be NFT contract address or something different from a couple of these. You can check on that for the specific source. But when you do that, you'll actually just, in this case, I've selected all of the fields so that you can see them here. There's a very basic way of starting to get some of the data, and I've just limited it to the most recent 50, I believe. Yes. So with this contract address right here, this is one of the two Art Blocks contract addresses. It's the more recent one, so it has most of the projects on there. I've added that here where it's just getting it from the ERC 721. It's also set up in this section here, and this is from the NFT trades. And you'll see that using the same address, I've actually added that it could be either one of the two addresses. It could be the first or second contract. So when you get this, you'll see that the data is quite a bit different. It's cleaned up a lot more. It makes a lot more sense when you're just reading it. So that's what the NFT trades table does. And what's really great about that is that it's bringing in all of these other sources into one place, and they're all going to have the exact same format. You don't have to then add a bunch of joins and trying to look at the different field names that aren't maybe standard across all of the different tables. Let's see, and I actually skipped ahead a little bit here on my slides. I did want to talk a little bit about OpenSea data before going into NFT tables. So I'll go back to that, and that's basically on slide 4. That's about working with OpenSea data. I've also put a sample query in there. We'll open up now. So OpenSea, as you likely know, is the biggest NFT platform. So most sales happen there. Oops. It runs on the Wyvern Exchange protocol, so it's referred to the data you may find as the Wyvern if you start typing in OpenSea here, it'll come up, but you'll notice that it's actually all Wyvern Exchange. So that's how all the OpenSea data is labeled here. Some of the drawbacks of using this compared to maybe using the ERC 721 or ERC 1155 data tables is that this will only cover the OpenSea transactions. They won't cover things that aren't on the platform or transferred otherwise. And shared contracts can be difficult to decipher. So anything that's minted on the OpenSea shared contract, well, it'll all have the same contract address. So if you try to plug that into just any of these queries that are trying to look at projects from a contract address standpoint, it won't work because you'll just get everything that matches that contract address. So in general, with OpenSea data, you'll have to use multiple tables to get the data that you'll need. There's transfer tables, pricing tables. I do have a sample here, as I had mentioned, so I've opened that up here. So this is, again, I've got just I've got a Art Blocks contract. I guess I've tried to keep it standard here, use the same address everywhere. So this is another way of pulling it with just OpenSea transactions. Here you'll see it's coming from we're using both the OpenSea Wyvern Exchange call atomic match, and we're also using the orders match and EBT transfer. But the token address is down here. I'm sorry, it's down on line 23. It's not on 25. This is the one you do not want to change. It's a WETH contract address. But here you can change this easily to put any different contract in there, and you'll get the most recent sales as it's set up. To just show the most recent 50 as it is now. So let's see. Moving on to that next slide, we are on the NFT trades table. To go over a little bit more, it currently aggregates data from OpenSea, Rarible, Super Rare, CryptoPunks, and Foundation. Like I said, it makes it all standardized. You've seen how the difference in what the data looks like when it comes from there. It doesn't work on any non-Ethereum network contracts. So something like Zrun that runs on Polygon, so that won't be in the NFT trades table. Let's see. All right. So any questions right now? All right, so we can move on to the first exercise on slide 6. And this just involves creating 2 queries to access the same NFT project. So I've added a couple sample NFT contract addresses, just quickly ones that I had around. You can use any contract address you want, though, if you have another one. The idea here would be to use that NFT data sources query as a starting point, and then create 2 different queries to access the same NFT data, and so that you can get an idea of how those differ. If you are choosing something like punks, you'd have to use the Larva Labs specific contract. Otherwise, you could probably just use either the 721 or try the Wyvern Exchange OpenSea one to look up that data. So shown a little bit about how to do that here. You can change the contract addresses around. Any questions about how you would actually update this query to change to do that? We'll move along. You can spend more time on that exercise later on. We'll start looking at exploring NFT contract data. I had mentioned that many of the, or at least OpenSea is on a shared contract. Same thing with Rarible. Those are typically ERC of 1155s that are let's see, somewhat they are somewhat fungible in the sense that they you can be used for for fungible tokens as well as non-fungible tokens. Art Blocks is also on a shared contract. It does have, you can explore a little bit more data because they make more of this available, such as the project IDs, the artist names, or project names. To find this, you need to use the token ID. I mentioned that a couple times. So we'll take a look at how that actually works. A little more about the Art Blocks contract. As I mentioned, there's 2 different contracts for it. First 3 projects are in one, all the others, and I think it's over 150 others. I know they're over number 200 published, but I don't know, or yeah, over number 200 was recently published. I don't know how many projects they have at this point, but it's over 150. Those are on the second contract. So they're separate sources in Dune, as I mentioned, but there is a query that combines those in that NFT data sources table. The token IDs give more info about the token. You can divide the token ID and round it to get the project ID in the case of Art Blocks. And that project ID can then be used to get the project name, artist name, using joins with other tables. I've got a sample Art Blocks query that I will open up, and this is from slide 8. Copy the text, not the link there. Okay, so this is a query that shows recent Art Block sales. We've got the date, price, and the token ID here. The token ID is actually linking to OpenSea, but looking at this token ID, you'll notice that they all, for this project, the Edifice project, this is one that just minted yesterday, they all start with 204. So this is project ID 204, and in line 8 here, you can see where this is, where that's the rounding and dividing is happening. We've got the token ID, making it numeric because otherwise it is stored as text, casting it to a number, numeric, and dividing it. Let's see, what is that actually by 1 million, and rounding that to get the project ID. So in this case, it's 204. That project ID, let's see, I've used that to get the, let's see, what is this one? This is the AB projects is a table that I've set up with the name of the project. So that's how this is coming in right here in line 9. So it's matching up the project ID with this user-generated table that I've had already created that has the IDs and names, and that just combines the 2 tables that assigned the IDs initially to the 2 contracts. So I have got another exercise set up to use this table in a similar manner to how it is joined to use the join that's set up to show the project name. I've got an exercise set up to show the artist name as well. So similar to the project name, Art Blocks has the artist name available, and we'll look that up here. So you can type Art Blocks, you'll see that it actually comes up as Gen Art 721, and then if you scroll down further, you'll see Gen Art 721 Core. I always forget which one is the more recent one, so usually have to try them each. But those are the 2 various sources. So we can get the artist address here we'll actually run through this one. I think it's the exercise is on slide 9, and it's to add the artist names. So to do so, that we're going to use the same query here, and then just add the use the GenArt 721 core artist name. Here we go. We'll check it out here. Similar to how we're joining this user generated table, in this case going to join the the 721 artist name. This right here, I'd already just had this and inserted it, but we're gonna tie the project ID. So we've named it AB artist, and then just get the project ID, and then matching that up to the same rounded token ID. So that is the project ID. It's just still doing the calculation to match that up here. Then need to just insert the field with the artist name. So let's see where. It's here already. It's AB artist. The field is project artist name. I'm doing min just because I noticed that there were a handful. It's just a shortcut to get around the fact that there were a handful of artists that were in there twice, or they had a name in there twice. So there would definitely be other ways to figure out which one you want to use, but I did it quickly here. And so I'm running this now. Should have the project artist here. So yeah, we've added the artist. Doesn't have a couple of them, but most of them are showing up. The Chromie squiggle is because that's on the first contract. So project 0, 1, and 2 wouldn't be in here. You'd have to either do another join or use maybe use a user generated table, which we'll talk a little bit more about. I've mentioned them a bunch and we haven't actually gotten to them yet. So we'll get to that in the next section. This was the exercise, but wanted to just walk through how to actually add this data using that project ID that is derived from the token ID. So that's it for that second section, that second exercise. Does anybody have any questions at this point? And can people hear me, just to make sure I'm not talking to myself here?
Yes, we can hear you.
That part's good. All right, well, we'll go on to the next section of this. So as I mentioned, user-generated tables. So Dune allows users to create their own data tables. A couple of reasons you may want to do this. One is if you want to access off-chain data that's not available within Dune, you could import anything you want really into to a Dune table. You can also use it to save maybe complex queries, make it available for other queries, other users, and really, if sorry, did someone have someone to say, or just the mic on?
I think it was just Kofi with his mic, but did you switch back to your slides on your desktop? Because we are still seeing the Dune query.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yep, I keep forgetting. I'm looking at my two screens and not always shifting here. Anyway,
I know that.
we're back on the user-generated tables. Like I said, we can create any tables we want, access data that's not available in Dune, and also save complex queries. Some example use cases, and this is a place I meant to add a couple links, and maybe someone else could help. There's I know there's one great query out there with some, or maybe even a whole dashboard that great job of adding project names to some OpenSea data. And that's through a user-generated table where someone has gone and I believe it is through a user-generated table anyway, but added the project names to help identify OpenSea. I'm sorry, projects minted on the OpenSea contract by the token ID. So maybe somebody could share that. I know that's been around in some of the channels on the Dune Discord. It can also be used to add NFT attribute data or properties, whatever you want to call them. So those are often not available on chain. So you could import this data. You can usually get it from an API or maybe even just a CSV file if it's available. You could put that into a Dune query, or I'm sorry, a Dune table, and then use that in various queries to maybe look at the data on a much more granular level, looking at it by the property type versus just looking at the project and looking at a floor price. For the entire project, you could look at maybe break it into 5 different levels. I've done that with some squiggle projects, looking at, if you're familiar with that, there's a basic squiggle, there's a red, fuzzy, bold, a few different levels of them, and trying to look at the data, or the sales data for various levels there versus just getting the overall project floor and trying to, or floor, average price, whatever it may be. At that point, you can use that data to dig in a lot further and hopefully extract more meaning from what's going on there, and potentially even see how things fluctuate over time if a particular attribute holds more value at a certain point, or if that decreases. You may see this, you may be more familiar with things like in punks, you'll see things like hoodies would be an attribute. So trying to see how those attributes maybe add or take away value from various NFTs. Let me see if I can actually.
Yeah, maybe it'd be
quickly-
helpful to show like the Squiggles page or one of the art blocks pages.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm just thinking I gotta find the link. Let me see if I can
Okay.
find that quickly. Sorry, that was one I meant to add in here. Any other questions at this point while I'm gonna pull this up?
Yeah, I have a question. Did the user-generated tables are private or public for everyone?
Generally, they are public for everyone. I believe the only way to make them private is with a pro account. Not 100% sure of that, but that I think it works like everything, all the other queries and.
You can't even not
dashboard.
even on a pro account. You can make views private. That's
You
just
can't
not
even.
possible.
Okay, sorry.
Well, it's just like you're just constructing a view in the database. There's no special operation for that for pro accounts. Yeah, the one thing that is to note there, basically, you can always access the view, but finding the constructor argument, so the script that generates this view, can be a bit tricky. So the results are pretty much public, but you could theoretically keep the method of constructing that view private by just
so
deleting the view, the query that constructs the view.
I ask question because once I create the user-generated table, maybe someone got the insert or modify the table content. That's the column of the table, maybe something that will be happen. So I think a way to create a private or something just useful the user tables queries something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Basically, collaboration on views. If you want to basically produce a table that is a public good, so that everyone can use, then you should try submitting it to the GitHub repo. I don't know if we've covered this yet. Like the same place where dex.trades lives, basically, or nft.trades, or any other abstraction for that matter. You could just go in there, create a new folder, and let's say you want to track Avis total value locked in there inside of a view. You could just create like a file that's called Aave total value locked, so TVL, and then it would be public. Then the only thing that needs to happen is like somebody from Team Dune actually needs to merge that. But we've gotten faster on it, so I don't know. It's gonna be merged like in a couple of days, and then it's gonna be a publicly accessible view, which is also where the logic basically resides inside of the GitHub repository.
Thanks.
All right, so I found the query that I was looking for. This shows some squiggles sales by various types. I've added the link in the slide 10, and I will open that up now. Go back to the table here, and so what this is doing is adding in the style, spectrum, color direction, height, segments. And then still just using the what I had already set up to show the recent sales, such as the ETH with the ETH price, the USD price, link to the OS page, or so what this is allowing us to do is just get much more data in here. All of these, all 5 of these. I'm sorry, all 6 of these. Nope, 5 of these columns right here are added via user-generated table, and I meant to also grab the link for that. Can grab that right now, but you'll see on this chart, this sales chart, it's actually showing sales color-coded by the various type. You could add new visualizations. This may be actually a good one to use for some examples of visualizations in a minute. I am going to pull up this. So this is where it's coming from, this Dune user generated. I've named it just Rantum squiggle metadata, or meta. Looks like I'm going to grab that one right now to give you a look at that. Here, and I'll add this to the link in a minute. So here we go. It's back to the metadata that's showing all the various attributes, properties for the squiggles. So it shows the various fields at the top. We're creating in this view. I've given it a name. The user-generated views start with Dune, user-generated, give it a name afterward. I have often used my username to make it a little easier to find them and know that it is the one that I created. Then you're adding the fields here. So in this case, I've got the token ID, the spectrum, style, starting color. So it's actually even more than I've got what's on the query there. And then I've just copy and pasted this long list of, well, it should be about 93, or yeah, it looks like it doesn't have the full updated list. There are, I believe, 9,200, 9,300 or so at this point, but just about all of them in here. So it's all, then this can be accessed by using this table name. We'll go back to the squiggle sales here. So that's where we've seen this. We're referencing this user-generated table right here, named it squig, the token ID. Let's see, I just named this other table GG apparently. So it's adding all of the data into this sales table. So yeah, this will actually be a great one to use for visualizations, which I have set up in the last section. Wanted to go over just a little bit about creating and accessing the user-generated view, which we just did. I did have an example of how to create a very simple query, create a user-generated view with a very simple query in here, although you could use this as well. It's a fairly simple one as well. Now the other, let's see, I should have a sample of another type of user-generated view here, where you would just add this to the top. Maybe you're not inserting the data, you're just trying to save the complex query. So it would be a slightly different format, but it is very similar. You're adding a line to the top of your query. It's not going to show any results when you do this. You'll see no results. That's what you want because you're not trying to have any output. You're just trying to create the view. But if you did want to, if you're saving a query, you could just remove that line or comment it out to test it out, make sure that what the view that you're saving does have the results that you were hoping to get, make sure they are correct, and then go back to adding that line in to get your view and access that from other queries. So the example that I had was a very simple one. Oh, actually, this isn't the one I meant to put in there, but this is what I was looking for. So this is one that is creating a view with a. It's not a very complex query, but just to save a query here. And this is the one that I was looking at before. It's the Dune user generated art block sales. This takes the sales from the 2 contracts here, and it's just selecting specific fields because they don't entirely match up. So in this case, you can see the results this way. If you want to just have it as a view, you'll see you can run it like this. You'll see that there's no results, which is the correct, that's the correct result. That's what we want when we're trying to create a view. Comment that and should get the results here again. Any questions right now about user-generated views?
Yeah, I've got a question. Do you know whether, using the method of creating the user-generated view in Dune query or using the GitHub method, whether there's like a difference in speed in calling like a user-generated table between those 2 methods?
I'm not aware of any difference in speed. Maybe not be the best person to speak to that, but as far in my experience, I haven't noticed any difference.
Can you repeat the question, Kofi?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you made a user-generated table using a query as opposed to making like a GitHub pull request, if like any of those ways of doing it was faster than the other. But yeah, Rantum,
I mean,
yeah.
technically, if you construct a view in the abstractions or you construct a view in the query editor, so through the front, like it's going to be the same in the database. So, like if you just want to store information, then it makes no difference because it's going to be a view nevertheless. If you start aggregating lots of data, then it might be a better way to construct a table and stuff. But that's that's pretty advanced stuff. Like we can take this offline if you're interested.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, we covered that a little yesterday in the focus group as well, of like the abstractions are much faster. Because like if you call dex trades, it's not running all the queries in dex trades. Versus if you created that in a user generated view. then it would run everything at query time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so I just pulled up this other view that I have here, very super simple user-generated view here, or table that's just adding a couple project IDs and some comments. Just these are from ArtBlocks, the ArtBlocks project IDs. So this is the visualization I was going to do originally, but I think the other one will be better. This was meant sort of as a simple exercise, and it's still in there where you can go select a few even random project IDs and get some comments in there to kind of play with creating a visualization. Let's see, so that is this exercise that's on slide 12 here. But I think we'll go ahead a little bit to visualizations. I'm playing with some of the squiggle data that I had there just because it is set up pretty well for visualizing in different ways and playing with some of these different charts. If you haven't had a chance to play with it much, there's a handful of charts. So there's 5 different charts in Dune for visualizations. Bar, scatter, area, line, pie, and then you can add tables, which is pretty similar to just what you're getting for your results, but you can format that a little bit, and then counters, which if you want to highlight maybe KPIs or something from a particular query, you can pick out specific numbers there. So, like I said, I had a sample here. Let me open this up, see what we do have. So this is using the comment one. Why don't we just take a look at this since I did have it set up already, and then can move over to the other one that adds a little bit more data to this. So in this one, I've taken that the user-generated table that I had added, trying to add that in. Let's see, where are we here? Right on line 12, I've added that. I've just called it as in my comments. I'm somewhat lazy with my naming on these, or try to make it, I don't know, not always use the same things anyway. But anyway, I've got just looking at filtering the ones that have comments on them. So I've got any that have a comment where it's not just empty. So I've got these here. So if we wanted to look at a pie chart of just comments, we can see the sales of these based on the comments. It's relatively meaningless in this point, or in this looking at it in this way. And I should go through how to actually create these. I think we'll hop over to the other chart to do that and just look at a few of them here. So this is, why don't we go over to the other chart? I think it's going to be there. We'll go from we'll start with the scatter chart here. The scatter chart was already created. This has got, like I said, the sales by type here, or sorry, by style. So you'll see that they're grouped by style. That's where this part is coming into play. If before that is there, we've just got them all and they are ungrouped again. That's like we had before we actually added that other layer of data in there. If instead you wanted to change it around to maybe look at the spectrum, in this case there's hyper rainbow, perfect spectrum, we can see that the basic are along the lower end, and then you'll see some of the very special hyper rainbow and perfect spectrum are up higher, and can do this with any of the various attributes here. So I'm gonna color directions or segments. So let's try creating a new one here. Let's try creating a line chart. So up here, we're creating a new visualization, selecting the visualization type. Adding that here. This doesn't look so good right here. So what do we have? We've got the block time, which looks good, but the Y column is showing the token ID, which isn't really telling us a whole lot. So we can change that to maybe price. Try out the USD price in this case. We've got some big outliers. It looks like the line chart may not be the best way to show a series of prices. Are generally probably be better used for something like an average price or something that is calculating rather than just showing individual prices. So some of the other types that we can play with here, we've got so we've got a bar chart, similar method there. It's got also so it starts with the token ID, so it can change that around the ETH price. And similar to the original scatter chart, can add some other groupings in here. You can't see much in this case, so not a great, maybe not a great way to visualize this data. Going back here, we'll play with this a little bit more and notice that you can actually add multiple Y values. So we've got both ETH and USD price here. So can add both of these in. You see that nothing actually changed here. And the reason is we've got these groups. So for them both to show up, both Y values, you'll have to remove the group. But once you do this, it'll give you another way to interact with your data here. You can see them both here. You can also move one of them over to the right axis. So you can enable the right axis, then to actually move that data over, you'll have to go down here and select which one's going to be on the right axis. Other things, other options here include showing data labels. We've got way too many for this to be meaningful here, but see what that does. It'd be useful anyway. You can add, there's options like logarithmic. You can change the formatting, add various labels. Like if we wanted to add on the, let's see, we've got the USD over here on the right, and we've got ETH on the left. So add these. If we hover over these, you can see how they're formatted. You can change the different formatting. You can let's see, there's a handful of different options here. A couple other things to note: you change the colors. So if we change these around, make a nice, I don't know, Christmas colors there or something. But you can change them to anything. So nice that you can, when you're putting a dashboard together, and that can be really useful if you're trying to highlight specific sections or make them all the same, or make something stand out. Definitely nice to be able to change those around. Let's see, another visualization type that we mentioned, we've got the counters and tables. So let's try the counter here. The counter is going to just show one value from your results. So in this case, it's taking the block time from the first row. So right here, got that value. So if we wanted to change that around and maybe get an ETH price, we can get this. But if we wanted to get if we had this sorted maybe by we wanted to know the third highest price for some reason, we could get row number 3. Row number 3. We can format this data. We can change the label around. So that'll put the title of it up here. You can actually change the label. Here you can add a suffix if you want. Shortcut for symbol. And then you can add any of these to a dashboard. When you do this, you'll see various options. You can select one that you've already got. You can create a new dashboard. I'm not sure if you've played around with that or not. That's pretty simple to do. But then add any of these visualizations to your various dashboards. Same thing with the charts here. Tables are the other option. That's kind of the default here. As you'll see if you do scroll down, that there are a few options of how to align them, the formatting. We've got, let's see, USD price. We can play around with that a little bit. Oh, I think I've already done that actually. If I take this away, you'll see formatting changes. Add the $sign in. It's got that at the end. But if we removes any, taking away the decimals, remove anything afterward, adding them in, we'll add them. You can add as many places as you like. Keep it in a 2-digit, or I'm actually going to remove that entirely. Don't really need it. You can another option that you could do if you wanted to invest some odds in there, but you can add so various ways to format the tables as well. So that's a little bit about the visualizations. The last slide that I had was to create a simple visualization, and that's kind of using some of the exercises that we've gone through, kind of bringing them together. I had to create one like we looked at initially with the comments. There's other ways you can obviously play with that. Any questions about visualizations right now? Cool. Well, that's about everything that I had ready to go through today. Wasn't actually sure if we'd be able to get through everything, so happy that we were able to get all the way through visualizations and introduce some various ways to access NFT data. I'm happy to answer questions about anything. Anybody got anything right now? All right. Well, yeah, like I said, that's everything I've got. I do have a few exercises in here and am happy to help out with those as needed if you do have questions about that.
Oh, sorry, cutting it. I think we have a question in the chat. The chat for Lectures channel.
Find someone's NFT balance. Yeah, there is. Yeah. There are queries to do that. I don't have any on hand at the moment. Does anybody else happen to have something like that?
I think there was one I took from Boxer a while ago.
Yeah, I know they're out there. Can definitely find something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Actually,
fastest way I think is just going through ERC 721 like event transfers. I don't know if there's a faster way than that. Like I don't think we have like an ERC 721 like view token balances table.
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, I know there's. Yeah, I think it's just running the typical query there. I'm sure there's a handful out there. I don't have something at hand. Oh, is that what you just shared here, Andrew?
Yeah, this was me running
that's
like
what
a list of NFTs through those transactions and getting the holders of that like NFT collection essentially. So you could probably
Yeah, I was going to say most of the queries that I have are based on picking up what someone held in a specific collection or even or specific collections rather than looking at wallet address, then finding all NFTs in the wallet. But I think you'd have to use, NFT. The NFT trades table even could be quite useful. And just looking at which ones come in and which ones have gone out, and then look at the balance of those, and whatever's left over is what's still in the wallet.
Yeah, that's actually, I had a question on that. Does NFT trades, does it capture mints, or is it only like trades?
No, sorry, I was gonna say you would not get mints that way.
Right,
Sorry,
okay.
I just realized that. I meant to mention that early. NFT trades is only for secondary sales. It's not for mints. Yeah, what we've talked about today is all for secondary sales. There's a lot of data out there for mints. Haven't covered that. Happy to share some other queries on some ways to look at that. But didn't get a chance to get into that, and that will not be in the NFT trades table either. So that's very important to note. That would, if you try to look at what is someone's NFT wallet balance, it would not pick up mints in that case.
I think Synex is asking, does NFT trades cover wallet to wallet transfers?
No.
I don't think it does.
Only
Right, just the sources that we had mentioned, like OpenSea, Wearable, so those platforms. Unlike, it's not taking just the ERC, like 721 token transfers if you just sent it to someone.
Yeah, because in the end it's
Not-
a sale. It's a sales table. Like it's supposed to represent sales in the market, not cover ERC 721s in general. But you couldn't. I don't know. I mean, there's dashboards out there who pretty much combine the two, and then you get a pretty accurate picture of what's happening inside of a NFT collection. That way.
Yeah, good questions though, because it's good to know what is included and what is not when you're looking at any of these tables, really.
Yeah, that's like 80% of the work. It's like you finish the query and it's like, oh no, the numbers doesn't look right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might work, and doesn't matter if the if the source isn't what you need it to be.
Okay, cool. I think that's probably a good stopping point then. Thanks again, Rantum, for teaching us all about NFTs. I'm sure we'll have to kind of revisit the recording to check for things we missed, but I found it very helpful at least. So thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. I hope someone did. I hope a few of you did, and I'm happy to clarify anything or provide more info if I can be of any help to anyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.